Welcome to Global SCM Leaders on Demand. We're on location in Houston, Texas. I'm Joe O'Reilly, senior writer with Inbound Logistics Magazine. I'm joined today by Paul Strzelec. He is the founding principal and CEO of Digital Tempest. Paul, I thought maybe you could just sort of give us some background about Digital Tempest, what you guys do.
Sure. We're a consulting firm that was established in 2001. We work across a number of industries, from the restaurant industry to food and consumer products, through chemical companies and folks that supply ingredients to a number of industries, to oil and gas industry. And in our consulting, we're particularly, I think, unique in that we deliver what we call insight-driven capabilities to companies. So we process a lot of data on behalf of companies. On the front end of that, it's to help them target performance improvement opportunities, and then on longer-term strategic relationships, companies leverage us for their integrated business planning practices and integrated business planning and decision-making processes to really create those insights, act on them, and strive for an ideal that we refer to as planning for growth.
Okay. What do you mean by planning for growth? What is that?
Yeah, it's an ideal where, in a lot of companies today, there's still many siloed behaviors and biases and challenges working cross-functionally between commercial organization and the operations organizations, which would include supply chain, manufacturing, logistics, as well as a finance organization. So if you look at those three perspectives of commercial, operations, and finance, just getting those three organizations to work together effectively and have the right orientation and mindset to the overall objective of the company, which for many companies it's growth. So how do we create a forward-looking capability that anticipates where markets are going and then put the resources in place to get to that destination? That's really the ideal of planning for growth, and many companies believe that the way to get there is to think about the portfolio and where they make investments to grow their talent, to be capable of performing in that model.
In the context of oil and gas industry, how does this idea of planning for growth help companies increase productivity and address some of these complexities?
Sure. The challenge with productivity and the kind of margin pressures and the forward-looking view of where markets are going is something that is obviously a serious challenge within the oil and gas industry, but something in common across many industries. And the other thing that's in common is really the alignment issue. So that decision-making process to get everyone working together inside the company and across a network of service providers, it really creates alignment of an operations strategy and a commercial strategy. And those two groups, the sort of cornerstone of that alignment is a growth orientation. How do we do things better, more efficient, faster, at working as teams on a global scale? That's something that everybody strives for. And that's really captured within this ideal of planning for growth. The other element that's really important is the underlying fact-based decision-making. So what we would call insight-driven capabilities. So how do we create signals and an understanding of what's happening, what's happened, why it happened, what's happening right now, what's likely to happen next, and to drive insights out of that and direct people to take specific actions with regards to those insights. And if we find out that the market's moving in a different direction or a supply condition is emerging, we know how to respond appropriately in the fastest possible way. So underneath that, in terms of planning for growth and capabilities for oil and gas, it's really looking at a portfolio of challenges and opportunities, determining the segmented strategies to pursue around that, and then also doing that on a forward-looking basis. And that can be quite different from a risk management perspective, is taking a forward-looking perspective versus one that's reactive and one that's grounded in sort of telling stories around what's happened to you, not necessarily understanding why or what's going to happen next.
Why is it so challenging for companies to develop insight-driven capabilities?
I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest challenges is talent. And there's a lot of talk around big data and data challenges, and that's definitely out there. There's a lot of data integrity issues. There's a lot of complexity around the underlying systems, especially as you're operating in places around the world that aren't as established as other places, and dealing in system capabilities that don't necessarily stretch to those places and processes. But at the end of the day, talent needs to understand that there are kind of dark spots in any analysis. When you're building insight-driven processes, not every answer is going to be there. So you have to know how to deal with ambiguity. And through that, I think if you think about once you create a talent base that understands where they can operate under precision and where they have to deal with some ambiguity, they build the supporting data and data models to drive that decision-making process. The next challenge from a talent perspective, including a leadership challenge, is to get people to actually act on those insights and encourage measurement of the result or the outcome, and that can be difficult. And then once you encourage that to help people continue to leverage that insight model so that you can nurture it and build out more capabilities on a global scale. So at the end of the day, for me, while there are data challenges and data modeling challenges and gaps in systems and global scale, it does come down to people and their ability to deal with ambiguity.
What can companies do today to address this talent gap?
Yeah, I think that when companies are in a state of very reactive or very supply-driven in nature and they want to move forward and transform to a new capability, I think it's really important, first of all, for leadership to clarify that vision. And often what we see is that generally people can describe where they are now, where they want to be, say, 5 years from now, but it's very difficult for them to envision what a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years will look like for people. So incrementally they can tell you about an improvement, but they can't necessarily help people visualize in their role what it means to them. And so I think as a starting point for getting talent to engage in that transformation, the people to engage, it's about clarifying that vision and helping them visualize the future and the steps to get there. The other piece of that is to establish a benchmark. Give them a clear view of what it means to do things right. And that do things right can't be sort of ignorant of the reality. It has to be based on an experience, something that's real for them. So in our case, when we're working with companies, we help them establish their potential by taking some of their real-world situations, modeling those real-world situations and helping them determine what they're accomplishing today in that situation and what they could accomplish through different techniques or insight-driven capabilities as I've described. And then once you have that in place, then it's really a question of how do you take that benchmark and get people to start doing that on an ongoing basis. What we've found most effective in getting started quickly is to really infuse some talent into the organization. And that's a role that we play, that's a role that others can play, and it's really to create a means to show the team the way. And after that, it becomes a question of knowledge transfer and development of formal talent programs to help them learn, and then apply those learnings on an ongoing basis. And so at the end of the day, for me, it becomes a leadership challenge to set the vision, to help people understand what that really means to do things right. And then to just sustain the process and the results.
That's great. Well, that wraps up our time, so I would like to thank Paul for sharing his insights with us.
Great, thanks, Joe.